Bloomberg's campaign is over? Let's talk about it, y'all. Middle America. Well, there I was. I think it's 4:30 in the morning this morning. And then Isabel Jimenez, our resident Bernie supporter, has this flash thingamajiggy on the Middle America Facebook page. If you want to be part of that, dear listener, all you have to do is go to facebook.com/America Middle, where you will meet the world famous Isabel Jimenez and the world famous Matthew Maida, among others. And then you can talk to also-rans like myself. And you can post anything you want there as far as political commentary goes. And it's a free speech environment. So unless you threaten somebody or severely insult somebody, we're going to let it fly. We're all adults here, so I'm going to trust that you're going to keep the main thing. But anyway, Isabel posts this thing at 4:30 in the morning or whatnot, my time. And it's, Michael Bloomberg's campaign is finished, she says. I said, whoa, subhanAllah, there must be something legitimately bad here. They must have caught him with something. I'm not even going to say it because YouTube is already going to demonetize this video because they're part of the media political industrial complex that's designed to go against Bernie Sanders and prop up establishment candidates like Biden, Warren, and Buttigieg and this individual. We'll talk about that in a second. But I was like, whoa, what's going on? So I clicked the link, and the link brings us to the following.
95% of your murderers and murder victims fit one MO. You can just take the description, Xerox it, and pass it out to all the cops. They are male, minorities, 15 to 25. That's true in New York, it's true in virtually every city. And that's where the real crime is. You've got to get the guns out of the hands of the people that get killed. So you want to spend the money for a lot of cops in the street, put those cops where the crime is, which means in minority neighborhoods. So it's one of the unintended consequences is people say, oh my God, you are arresting kids for marijuana that are all minorities. Yes, that's true. Why? Because we put all the cops in the minority neighborhoods. Yes, that's true. Why do we do it? Because that's where all the crime is. And the way you get the guns out of the kids' hands is to throw them up against the wall and frisk them. And then they say, oh, I don't want that, I don't want to get caught, so they don't bring the gun. They still have a gun, but they leave it at home.
95, did you know that, dear listener? 95% of the crimes, gun crime in America, is committed by minority kids. Was it 17 to 25 in minority neighborhoods? And that's why you flood those neighborhoods. He said you can Xerox this. This is very important. He said you can Xerox that and hand it out to all the cops. 95%. Is that so? Well, there's Bloomberg stats, right, which are not sourced, and then there's the FBI. Now, I don't know how you individuals feel about the FBI, but I happen to believe that the FBI kind of knows what they're talking about. Here's their murder offenders profile. Remember, 95% of the murders and the murder victims was the number. So here it's telling us that white, mostly males, because you got 64% of the assailants being male and 7% being female, are actually, no, it's actually white guys. White men generally commit 31.1% of the murders. Black men generally commit 38% of the murders. And then you've got this other, which is 1.8, and then you've got unknown, which is 29.1. So within that unknown number, we don't know who's in that unknown number. Very interesting stuff. But it's clear here that the number 95 is an obviously exaggerated number. It's just completely untrue. That was 2013. If you look at 2018, it's pretty much more of the same, although it's a little bit expanded. In 2018, what you can see here is that white guys committed about 29.9% of the murders, black guys 38.7%, Hispanic or Latino committed 9.9%, not Hispanic or Latino 37.7%, and then unknown again was at 52.4%. So, normally when you talk about people of color, you're talking about black folks and Hispanic folks. Even if you were to combine us, you would get about 48. And again, you've got the not Hispanic or Latino category, and then you've got the unknown category at 52.4. So it's just simply untrue to say that 95% of the murders, and he says this is true in virtually every state in America. That's what he said. Every city, virtually every city in America. 95% is committed by us. Of course, I live in Maine, and it is untrue that 95% of the murders are done by black folks in Maine. The vast majority of the murders done by people in Maine are done by white folks. I mean, considering the demographics, it makes a ton of sense. And demographically speaking, I am not saying that the 38% number is not high among black folks. When you consider that you're about 13 to 15% of the population, for you to commit close to 40% of the murders is exorbitantly high. But keep in mind, every time you're looking, even at these statistics, these are statistics of reported, indicted, and convicted crimes. And when you think about the American justice system and how that works, there's cause for pause and a little bit of cynicism there. But be that as it may, you cannot look at Chicago. Chicago has horrific, so does Baltimore, horrific gun crime, and it's almost exclusively black on black in certain areas of Chicago. Chicago's murder crime is so horrible that these guys, I'm not going to say what page it is, but these guys have statistics like a sports game of which gang was able to kill more people in the rival gang. These are kids that are YouTubing killing each other, literally. So and granted, Chicago is an outlier, but when Bloomberg says things like, "Now I was in New York," you get these kids, you push them up against the wall, and they don't want to get jerked by the police, and they don't want to have a gun on them while they're getting jerked by police, so they leave the gun home. When I was in New York City, like before stop and frisk, and everybody that I knew carried a weapon. And a lot of people have the misconception that it was the gangbangers that carried all the weapons. The gangbangers actually were less likely to carry a weapon than people who were not in gangs. You know why? The vast majority of the reasons that people were gangbangers, at least in my experience, was because they were scared to death and they wanted an equalizer. And so if you were rolling with a gang, you had an equalizer. You had the other gang members. If you decided not to be part of a gang, you had no equalizer, and so you were more likely to carry a weapon. Now, what Bloomberg said is true. If I thought that an NYPD officer could just randomly get me and jam me up and throw me against the wall for no particular reason, I would have made different decisions. But at the time, the Constitution was kind of still the Constitution, and I was very well versed, and I've had numerous interactions with police, and it hasn't gone well for the police, because when they know that you know what your rights are, the interactions are always very different. Especially when there's a camera in their face. "What's up, officer?" No, I'm not going to do that to you. I'm not going to do that to you, officer. You've been through enough stress already. So look, guys. So on the one hand, it has to be recognized that there's a massive, massive issue of gun crime in the black community in certain cities. Chicago is one, Baltimore is one, where it's completely and totally out of control. But those are obvious outliers. Chicago is an obvious outlier. It's not happening all across America. If it was happening all across America, then Mr. Bloomberg's 95% number would be accurate. It's not. We know it's not. The FBI knows it's not. And Mr. Bloomberg did not want this particular talk to be publicized. I wonder why. I mean, stand by your convictions, my brother. If you really believe that 95% of us are stick-up kids and running around with guns willing to shoot people, then have the courage of your convictions and put it out there. But did you notice what he said? You can Xerox this and put this in the hands of every police officer. Now, I've been saying over and over again, I had LEO Mike one time on a fireside. He said, you guys are the ones committing all the violent crime. And I said, well, if you seek it, you'll find it. Young men are generally predisposed to violence, and that's just a universal fact. And if you flooded white communities, especially poor white communities, with police officers and jammed up white kids in that age bracket, I'm certain that you would find enough to arrest these kids and put them in jail for life. I know that because I worked in a microcosm of a poor white community, and I've seen it firsthand. I've also seen cops look the other way when it comes to white folks. Look, this is well documented. You can go watch the death penalty mini documentary I did, where even hardcore right-wing pro-death penalty folks were saying, whoa, this is way disproportionate in the application of the law when it comes to black folks, where you're killing 13-year-old black kids, electrocuting them to death on false charges. So, and then you're releasing white men who drag a kid to death and beat him to death, so that he's unrecognizable to his brother, to his mother. We've got an entire. I'm talking to a very good friend of mine about the justice system in the United States of America. Got an entire group of folks that have been targeted, and where the law seems to swing heavier on one side than the other. I've only really got jammed up one time by the police in New York City, and that was because, wouldn't you know it, of truancy. We had a bomb threat at my school, and there was a Barnes & Noble across the street, and it was around Christmas, so I went and got my brother a book of poetry, and I was out of school 10 minutes after they called us all back in from the bomb threat. This guy wrote me a summons, showed up to court, and tried to get me in the system. If it wasn't for my brother advocating for me with our public defender, this officer was really trying very hard to get me in the legal system. And all I had was I didn't have a weapon at me at that time. I had a Tupac Shakur book about poetry, The Rose That Grew From Concrete. And this officer was trying very desperately to get me in the system. So, it's just factual. We all know this, but when you think about the context, it's obviously terrifying. You've got the most powerful person in the city telling his officers, these kids are criminals, jam them up, I'm going to flood you with money and flood you with officers, and you create a police state environment for these minorities, these black kids, and we're going to clean up the mess in this city. I was watching you know what, I'm not even going to say that. I'm not even going to say that. All I will say is, if you don't listen to Martin, you're going to get Malcolm. I'll say it that way. So, look, I'm laughing and smirking at this because this is nothing new. My friend Isabel, she's just naive. If you think that this is going to be the end of Michael Bloomberg, think again. I just looked at Michael Moore's Twitter page. I saw nothing. Michael Moore, who rages on about how racist and horrible Donald Trump is. All the left-wing media that was telling us about, oh, they're so offended about how racist Donald Trump is. Well, he did the first step back. He was reversing Joe Biden's and Hillary Clinton's, super predator stuff. Remember that stuff? Well, what about that? Oh, no. Don't look at that, black people. He's racist. Well, why is he racist? We said he's racist. He did something 20, 35 years ago. He's a racist. That's what we were told, right? Isn't that what we were told? And then we've got CNN. The head thing on CNN was Amy Klobuchar. She won some little district over there in New Hampshire. That was the big story. Can you imagine if something like this was leaked about Donald Trump? It would be all over the place. This is what I tell you guys. It's offensive. It's absolutely offensive to me as a black person when the media tries to act like they actually care about our community. These people don't get... Listen, black people, these people don't care about you. These people don't care about you, bruh. Why is this not frontline news? Why isn't Michael Moore losing his mind about how racist what this guy did was? Mr. Bloomberg. Why are we not hearing about this over and over and over again? You know why? Because the establishment media wants Michael Bloomberg in there. They know he's racist as hell and they don't care. Because to them, maintaining the status quo of the Democratic Party is way more important than any sort of racial justice. These people don't care about you, bruh. Democrats don't care about you. Now, do I think Mr. Trump cares about me? I think he cares about me insofar as he wants to win my vote. Do I think he would be happy if one of my sons married one of his daughters? Nope. But that's true for a lot of folk that I know. And I can still get along with them. I've showed you guys before the absolutely horrifically racist stuff that Abraham Lincoln said about how he believes that in white supremacy and that it is the lot in life of the Negro to live beneath the white man, etc., etc., etc. I don't care what he said about us. What I do care about is his policy. So I don't care what Donald Trump said about us. All I care about is his policy. And you know what else? I don't really care about what Mr. Bloomberg thinks of black people. I do care about his policy. The problem is that he's got a policy that has been absolutely and completely destructive to black people. That's why. And that's the issue. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the person's policy. It's not their rhetoric. This is why I get offended every time I see all these mealy-mouthed white people come on TV, MSNBC and CNN, and talk about how racist Donald Trump is. Stop it. What racist policies, since he's been the president, since this man has been in power, what racist policies has he enacted? Is it the unemployment rate for black people being the lowest it's ever been? Is it the reversal of the racist crime bill from your other racist bastard friend Joe Biden and your other racist evil individual Hillary Rodham Clinton? What racist policies has he enacted? But here's Michael Bloomberg, and there's almost complete radio silence from all the talking heads in the media. Where is the outrage? This is why I say that the black voting bloc is the silliest, most easily manipulatable group on the face of the earth. Do you know currently that Mr. Bloomberg, I think, is at 27% approval among black people and Biden's at 22% among black people? This is what I say. That we're the most... This is what I say, Isabel, there's no way in the world this is going to end Michael Bloomberg. Stop it. That's because you believe these people when they get on TV and act like they're upset about racism. These people aren't upset about racism. They're upset about the lack of power. These people are racist as hell, Isabel. Look, let's do this. Let's do this. Here. You want to talk about FBI statistics? All right. So I can see a person, I know a guy right now. I've got an actual avowed Nazi in this forum, and that's okay. You can be in the forum if you're a Nazi. That's all right. Nobody's mad at you. I mean, people are mad at you, but I'm not mad at you, bro. Let's look at this. Pedophile profile, young, white, wealthy. 4-year FBI investigation shows that vast majority of online child porn arrests involve people in high places. Then it says, and again, it's quoting the FBI, of the 413 people arrested as part of the agency's Innocent Images investigation since '95, only a handful have not been upper-class, educated white men. They're almost all white males between the ages of 25 and 45. So, should we then, I'm sure the statistics are much, much higher, right? Because the guy said almost all of them. It's almost exclusively a white male problem. Should we then set up stop and frisk sites in white neighborhoods? Should we flood white neighborhoods with police and hang out at playgrounds? And if you see a white guy at a playground, tackle him to the ground, jam him up, take his cell phone, find his address, go into his house and hack into his computer? Because statistically speaking, these are people that are committing an extremely destructive crime, which I would put on par with murder, which many of my friends would as well. Why don't we do a stop and frisk program for white males between 25 and 45, since they're the ones that are almost exclusively committing these crimes? Why did Mr. Bloomberg create a stop and frisk for those people? Doesn't Mr. Bloomberg care about children? The 95% number would have actually been accurate for white males when it comes to pedophilia. Why do you want to jam up all these kids in the hood, Mr. Bloomberg? Look, guys, I'm not mad at Mike Bloomberg. You can't be mad at Mike Bloomberg. This is what these people have been doing since forever. Look, we just saw, I caught the tail end of the New Hampshire debate, okay? Here's Mayor Pete. Remember this?
Right. I want to go back to the original question, though. How do you explain the increase in black arrests in South Bend under your leadership for marijuana possession?
And again, the overall rate was lower.
No, there was an increase. The year before you were in office, it was lower. Once you became in office in 2012, that number went up. In 2018, the last year that we have a record for, that number was still up.
Yep. We adopted a strategy that said that drug enforcement would be targeted in cases where there was a connection to the most violent group or gang connected to a murder.
Senator Warren.
So you'll notice, you may not have noticed a connection, but remember, one of his justifications, because they were actually asking about marijuana and, criminalizing marijuana and how destructive our, war on drugs has been, particularly to the black community. What a surprise. Now we've got an opioid case, and now it's a sickness. It's not a crime wave that needs to be where you have a whole swath of people being demonized and et cetera, but that's okay. You'll notice, though, that with Bloomberg, when he was talking about jamming up these kids, he was like, and people are saying, "Oh man, you're going after kids for marijuana," and he connected it to gun violence and killing people. You notice that's exactly what he did. He did the exact same thing. These people are operating from the same playbook. These people are racist as hell, man. They've always been racist as hell. I keep trying to tell you, I'm talking to black people now. I keep trying to tell you, for the vast majority of American history, all we've had are racists to choose from. You think these people are your friends? You really believe these people on MSNBC and CNN when they're sitting there poo-poo, "Oh my God, Trump is so racist. Somebody said that Trump was the most racist president." It was Bernie. Now, Bernie, I love you. And Isabel, I love me some Bernie. But this silliness that Trump is the most racist president in U.S. history is an absolute, it's an actual lie. It's an actual lie. If you define racism by policy that affects a group of people, then Mayor Pete and Mike Bloomberg are both way more racist than Mr. Trump was. Trump is more racist than Richard Nixon? Now, here's what I'll say about Democrats, okay? My buddy Matthew Maida pointed this out. He said, well, granted, he was a Republican. I get it, brother. I get it. He was a Republican. I get it. But the fact of the matter is he's a Democrat now. And he's being completely embraced by the Democratic apparatus. And all the moralizers and all the supposed pro-black allies, they don't really have a lot to say. They don't have a lot to say. I'm on MSNBC right now, and somebody said, here it is. They're fact-checking Bloomberg's comments. There it is. New York experts fact-checks Bloomberg on racial profiling. And that's like on the middle part of the page. Go look at it yourself. This is MSNBC. If Trump would have said that, do you think they would have said, oh, we're going to fact check Trump on racial They would have said, racist bastard, proven to be a liar again. These are just games, man. These are just politics. These are just politics. You can't be mad at Michael Bloomberg. If you're mad at him, don't be mad at him. You can't be mad at Mayor Pete. These people are operating in a system. They want to be politically successful, and they know how to be politically successful in our current world. And that's to be a racist bastard. Those are facts. Those are the facts. I'm sorry. Those are the facts. And look, like I said, I acknowledge that we carried a lot of weapons back in the day. The funny thing is most of us never used them often. That's the other thing. Now, I've seen people shot. People have pulled weapons on me. Whatever. But most of us did not use them. And when we did use them, we didn't use them frequently. And I surmise that that's the similar case for a lot of the poor white folks. We used to be a little church downtown. We had to tell people, you can't come in here with your weapon, man. There's all these white people. But they were poor. And it was a survival mechanism. And they had to really decide whether or not, whether or not they could do that, because it was a fearful thing. I remember, Rush Limbaugh, Trump gave Rush Limbaugh the Medal of Freedom, and for 2 or 3 days, it was on the front page of CNN and MSNBC. Now, again, Rush Limbaugh, I agree, he's a racist bastard, but he did not create actual policy. He did not influence the thousands of NYPD officers and say, Xerox this and send this to everybody. So why this is not front page all over the place is beyond me. What do you think? Anyway, don't be too mad at Michael Bloomberg. If you're totally crazy and upset about Michael Bloomberg and what he said and things of that nature, it's because you haven't been paying attention. This is how these people function. This is how they operate. So you shouldn't be that upset, and you shouldn't be that surprised. I'm not, and I don't believe that this spells the end for Bloomberg at all. He'll probably put some apology. He'll probably say, I have evolved, I have changed. What we need to worry about now is the real racist bastard in the White House. Ah! Right? And then off you go. So, anyway, love your neighbor. Take care of each other. Middle America, we are the media. Till next time, guys.